All right, welcome. So this week we're going to talk about Python. Python is going to be the programming language that we talk about today. So Python is probably one of the top five, if not one of the top three programming languages that is available on the market. Google early on adopted Python for a couple of reasons. For some statistical analysis for data science, but also to run a lot of their search engine algorithms within programming within Python. So Python's been around for a couple minutes. It first appeared in 1991, which that's quite some time ago. So that's almost 40 years ago, 30 some years ago. But I remember me personally using it for the first time at a software company back in 2005. I had a coworker who was using it for one of his tools, and that's how I learned about Python. But I didn't start utilizing it until several years later myself personally, but it has become a very popular tool, or programming language per se. But I use it in some of my data analysis classes. So just for like stats and so forth, it's very popular. It does handle it pretty well, but it also could be used for scripting. It could be used for web interfaces, APIs, etc. So a lot of good things that Python could be used for. So today, this week I'm just going to kind of go through a lesson on how to use Python, some basic programming language, some basic information, and then at the end I'll potentially create some type of game or some type of app or something. In this lesson, we're just going to use the command line interface. Now, previously when I taught Python in a previous institution, I used PyCharm, but I think it's important to try to stick to an IDE that you are comfortable with. And one of the things here that we are using is Visual Studio Code. We're using it for JavaScript, but I think utilizing it for Python is helpful. And last lesson we did C#, and that was used Visual Studio Code as well. So in this lesson, we're going to use Visual Studio Code to use Python. Now, I've already installed my stuff, but I will do a walkthrough just to show you kind of what the steps are in order to do it. So first thing you want to do is click on your extensions here. And we need to have a couple things installed. So the first thing is just type in Python and hit enter. You want to ensure that you have Python for VS Code. Now you see it says uninstall. That means I already have it installed. If you're installing this the first time, it'll say install. The other one will be you can install the Python here, and once again it'll say uninstall, and I'll just have to click install. Now you can install the extensions, but I have not at this point. I don't need it for this time around, but that's completely up to you, but not required to do the coursework here. Okay, so then what I would do is I would choose terminal and new terminal. And the next thing I would do is I want to install Python 3, the version 3. So I would come down here and do brew install Python 3. Now I've already installed this and it's already installed, so I'm not going to run through that again. But what I will say is if you don't have brew set up, come out to brew.sh. And if you walk through this narrative, and this is really good actually, you can start here and run this on whether you're running Windows or Mac, it doesn't matter. If you're running Windows, you can run this through PowerShell. But you could just walk through the steps here and it'll get you started on how to do brew.sh. It is pretty straightforward if you follow the documents. I've followed the documents and it worked fine. That will help you. That's if you're using a Mac OS. But if you're using a PC, you should be fine without that. You can run everything from DOS or whatever. So that will get your environment set up. And then once you have your environment set up, I would say the first thing you want to do is ensure that Python is installed. You could check the version. So you could just do Python So if you do that, I have that one, and then there was another something else that you can run that allows you to. I think it was Python 3 version. Yeah, so you could do that and see what version of Python 3 that you have, which is 3.9.10. That's how you tell that, do I have Python, do I have it installed, and so forth. So that's good. So I'm gonna clear my screen. The other thing I would do is find a directory where you want to put your stuff at. So I'm gonna cd into documents, get, and I'm gonna make a new directory, and I'm just gonna call it Python. It exists. So let's just make new directory. I'll call it Python 2. I will cd into Python 2. There we go. So now I have my stuff there. What I want to do is set that up here. So I click on this, open new folder. I will go to documents, Python 2, open. So I will say open sesame. Just give it a second or two. It'd be very perfect. So I will exit out of that. Now we need a file. We can easily click on this, create a file, but since we're using terminal, let's use terminal. So go to new terminal. We'll make sure that we're in present directory. We are. So I'll do, I will say I'll create a new directory called hello. CD into hello, and you see it popped up there. And the first thing I'll do is I'll set up a sample file of Python just to get started. So let's do, we could do this, we could type in touch. We'll say hello world and py, so py for Python. And so now I click on this, we should have a file in there, perfect. So we could come up here and write some code. Just zoom in for a little bit. So we can give it a variable name. So this is just like JavaScript, which is a nice learning curve. You don't have to describe your variable. You can just type it how you want it to. So I can say display equals double quotation marks. I can say hello. And one thing is you don't have to do that in Python. You can just leave it like that. Now, in order to display it on the screen, you type in print, parentheses, you put your variable name, which is display. That's it. Now, a couple ways that you can run this is you could click on the little play button here for your Python, and you see it says hello world. The other way is you could right click here and you could run Python file from terminal. And there you go, you get the same thing. That is pretty straightforward. Let's say that we wanted to, well, I don't know, do some other stuff with this. So let me comment this out. So we put a hashtag here, comment it out. So let's say that we wanted to add two numbers together. So let's say add two numbers together. You can say variable one can be first number equals, and we'll hard code 44. And we can say second number equals 89. Okay. Now we could display the value. So we could type in print, and in parentheses, we could put, what we're going to do here is we're using expression. So we're going to say the summary of, and then if we do in brackets 0, which represents the element, which is element 0 is first number. And then we could say and then 1, which is our second one, is 2. So 0 is the sum, and we're saying that the sum equals 1 plus 2, which is 1, 2. And so we have a tick there. We put a comma, sorry, dot, which has a format. So we have to format the value. And then we put in first number, the second number, and we need a third number, and I just realized what I forgot to do. So that won't work. We didn't add them together yet. This right here was declaring and set the values. Now we're gonna add them up. So this is where we can put summary, first number, second number. Like that. There we go. That's why I was missing that. Move this up. All right, so first number, comma, second number, comma, and then we'll do summary like that. And that's it. Save it. Perfect. So now I'm going to click run. And the summary of 44,889 is 133. So that is right. Perfect. So that is how you would do that. Say we want to do an input instead. So we close that. We have inputs. We do input.py. I want to put under hello. Okay. So this one, very similar to the other one. So we need to store numbers. So we could put first number equals, and then we'll use the input, which is a function. And we'll say enter the first number. This is going to require someone to input these values. So they'll be dynamic instead of hard-coded. Copy it. And we'll put second number. And put second number. Just like that. And then we can put add two numbers. And here we could do summary float. We want to float this because why we have to float is we're setting up this first number, but here we're using the input, which is producing a string. So we need to float it. So we'll say floats. And that'll be first number like that. And we'll do plus, and we'll do floats second number. That. There we go. Now we need to display it. So I'm a big proponent of copying and pasting when I can. So I'll copy this. Why we create the will when we already did this one. And this will be display values. So summary of 0, 1, and 2, same exact thing that we did up here. And I'm going to run it differently. Let me clear this. And we're going to run it from here. All right, so first number is I don't like that. So you see how the numbers are like that? I don't like that. So let's do this. Let's put full in here in a space. So that way they're kind of separated. Still like that. That doesn't look right. You know why? I probably didn't save it. All right, now it looks better because it's separated. 56, and we'll say 98765. And there you go, summary of 56. Now we could, if we wanted to, say we wanted to multiply it, we do that. Run it. 6 and say 9. 5 and 4. We also did a float in case we never put a decimal aspect of it. All right, so that right there is the basics, some of the basics. So let's say we wanted to create a game per se. We'll call it something. I'm actually going to create a second video on that one. So let me stop that. It's going to be a little bit longer.